Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the Freestyle Go chess challenge in 2024. We're now in the semi-final stage and in this heated stage of the tournament we have now the spectacular derby between Magnus Carlsen and Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Nodirbek was the best player so far in the preliminaries, but now in the knockout stage Magnus is back. Magnus yesterday destroyed Alireza Firouzja in the tiebreaks. Nodirbek won his quarterfinals match against Ding Liren. Also, of course, a great success, but now the stakes are high. Let's see now what happened in the first game. Magnus Carlsen opened with the white pieces in this setup of chess 960. Let's see now what happened. In my opinion, a really wild game performed by both of these top grandmasters. So with the white pieces in this position, Magnus Carlsen opened with the move g4. Nodirbek's response was e5, knight to g3, competing here for the f5 square, f6, and now Magnus goes aggressively immediately with the move d4. Here many things can be played. Nodirbek played, I think, a slightly worse line with knight to b6. You can take immediately the pawn. It leads into a very complicated line. After knight to h5 hitting the pawn here, you have to protect it, and then after something like, I don't know, knight to b3, you can develop your knight, and now after, for instance, white takes, you have this resource. You can break and enter here immediately with the move c5. The knight doesn't have such a good square on the other side of the board, has to maybe play knight to f3, knight to b3, or maybe knight to f5. So this was one of the ways that Nodirbek could have proceeded here. But Nodirbek played, as I said, knight to b6. We have knight to d3 by Magnus. Nodirbek builds first of all this healthy structure here, keeps everything compact so far in the center of the board. f3 by Magnus, and now after finally e takes d4, we have bishop to d4, and now Nodirbek does a similar idea, pushes away a minor piece. Magnus has to step back, and now Nodirbek expands even further with the move c4 here. Magnus goes now a very tricky line. Bishop takes b6, a takes b6. At least he provoked some structural weaknesses. At least he provoked this double pawn structure on the b file, but of course the downside is that you gave up the bishop pair in an early stage of the game. Nodirbek is of course a wild dynamic player. He can of course be very powerful with the bishop pair all over the board. So knight to b4 by Magnus, we have d5 by Nodirbek. Nodirbek is of course trying now to expand even further with the move d4. That's why Magnus is not allowing that. He plays now the move c3, and there is a certain rule in chess that says when you give up the bishop for a knight in an early stage of the game, then you have to secure the squares that the bishop covered. Of course, in this particular case, Magnus has now to secure the dark squares because he gave up his dark square bishop in an early stage of the game. So now he has to play c3, e3. He has to now have here a central grip on dark squares with his pawns. Bishop to f4 by Nodirbek. You look at this. Nodirbek is already using the power of the bishop pair. We have knight to h5 by Magnus, and now Nodirbek protects the pawn, but keeps also the bishop very active on the diagonal. It's not allowing here Magnus Carlsen maybe to castle queenside. We have f4, queenside castling now by Nodirbek, and now knight to g3. Magnus retreats, g6, e3. You see, as I said, now Magnus is hoping somehow to keep his dark square somehow protected by pushing the pawns, and what he's trying also to do is to reroute the knight to c2 and then to fix it on a beautiful square here on d4. Queen to d7 by Nodirbek, queen to e2, rook to e1. Magnus is getting challenged here. There are certain threats around the square e3. We have knight to c2. Magnus protects the pawn, but is also preparing, as I said, this nice outpost for the knight on d4. Bishop to f8 by Nodirbek, b4. Good move by Magnus, because after a takes b3 en passant, a takes b3, things are getting complicated for black. The a file is open, so here white should be much better. So that's why after b4, Nodirbek is not touching anything. He first of all develops his light square bishop. We have h3 by Magnus, and now comes maybe even the first mistake, I would say, here by Nodirbek. Nodirbek plays now an aggressive move h5. He hopes to get somehow his bishop, his light square bishop into the game, but Magnus Carlsen had here an immediate opportunity to lock everything here, to keep really a blocked out position, because when you have the knight against the bishops, it's very important to keep an immobile pawn structure, to keep a static pawn structure. So here Magnus should have after move h5, he should have simply played here f5, kicking away the bishop, after something like, I don't know, bishop to f7. Now you can play knight to d4, and this should be pretty solid. For instance, we play queen to c7, you can cover everything. Maybe the bishop is coming into the game, we are covering the rook with the rook to pawn on e3, maybe bishop to g5, now a4, and you can expand on the queen side, and this should be pretty solid here for white. Also, we're targeting here the g6, so you can maybe try, I don't know, something like bishop to h4. Now we protect, now we can take out this one, takes, and now maybe this pawn is also falling. So very complicated position now to play for both sides, but I think this was Magnus Carlsen's great chance here to break and enter with the move f5. But he played immediately knight to d4, which gave here Nodirbek the opportunity to play h4 to simply kick away the knight from g3. Now f5 is of course much riskier because the knight is hanging, but Nodirbek played here h takes g4, allowed finally now Magnus Carlsen to play the move f5. We have bishop to f7, now h takes g4, and mission accomplished, I think, here for Magnus Carlsen. He keeps now the position blocked out. The bishop pair is not so dangerous, I would say, anymore in this particular position, because Magnus kept the position compact, really glued together with the support of the knight, with support also by the bishop. The position on the king side is really static. So we have queen to c7, Nodirbek is attacking the knight, Magnus protects it with queen to f3, bishop to h6, and now rook to e1. Magnus protects, of course, his main weakness, the weak pawn on e3. We have bishop to g5, a4. The only chance here to do something for Magnus is of course on the queen side, opening up somehow the a file. We have g takes f5, and now bishop to f5, hitting the king. Very nice square now for the bishop. Also, knight from g to f5 is possible, maybe even slightly better, because you keep the bishop here on this side of the board. You can maybe attack further, bishop to c2, a4, a5, bishop to a4, getting this bishop here, because the knights are very well fixed here in the center of the board. So bishop to f5 also perfectly fine. King to b8 here by Nodirbek, and now Magnus goes with rook to e2, is preparing to build an amazing battery, and then to play a5 and breaking and entering here on this side of the board. Knight to g6 by Nodirbek. We have bishop takes g6. Good move here also by Magnus, keeping now the knights off the board. He keeps now a good position with both of these knights. The bishops, as I said, it's really strange that it's actually a certain open position, but the bishops don't have great attacking chances. I think the knights are more powerful here, especially when this other knight again comes on f5. So really a rare position that we see now, but here played by these two top grandmasters. We have knight to f5. Magnus fixes immediately the structure again. If you play bishop to f5, then after knight to f5, I think again the knight is much more powerful here than the dark square bishop, because the knight on f5 cannot be, of course, kicked away by any minor pieces here of black. So after knight to f5, we have queen to e5 by Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and now Magnus plays an interesting line, of course, a5, is hoping to break and enter here on the queen side. But now comes, I think, even the crucial mistake of this amazing chess game. Here Nodirbek should have simply played b takes a5. After rook to a5, now queen to e4 forces maybe a trades of queens, and now after something like, I don't know, rook to a2, you can go here with king to c7. If you get checked, then you step back. If you meet again rook to a5, then again you have king to c7, and I think this should be a solid draw. But after move a5, what Nodirbek did, he played queen to e4. Magnus took, of course, and now Nodirbek lost the pawn on b6, which makes now this threat really possible here for white. Rook to a2 with rook to a8 is now the huge threat. There is even a checkmate threat, so that's why here Nodirbek had to play the game like this, had to deliver a check and trade off at least one of those rooks off the board. But still, white is here much better because of the back rack problems. You see now there is always the threat to play rook to h1 and rook to h8. If the rook moves from the 8th rank, then there's always this potential checkmate threat on the back rank. Really wild stuff. Even if you compete here, on the h file, then rook to a5 is going to happen, and there's simply no good way to protect anymore this pawn. The knight is coming here, the knight is coming here on d6. Even if you deliver some checks, no good checks are possible. After king to g3, nothing can be done. I think this is game over. You lose simply this pawn. Not a good position here for Nodirbek. After rook to d5, there's again obviously the threat of rook to d8 checkmate on back rank. So always something to worry about, because Nodirbek did not take out the pawn on a5. Here Magnus has this powerful pawn on b6. We have rook to e8. Magnus goes, of course, rook to h1, and now Nodirbek makes another mistake, rook to f8. The only way to survive maybe is somehow to play bishop to f4. Then after knight to g7, you have to somewhere step back. Here, very tough to play. After rook to f8, here Magnus Carlsen played knight to d6, and believe me or not, in this particular position, Nodirbek resigned. So, what's the issue? These are the most powerful two knights that I've seen in my life. This is really crazy that the knights are actually controlling the bishops, which is really wild. Whatever you do, for instance, if you try to deliver a check, we'll simply step back here. And even if you try f5, the knight is coming here, for instance, on e6. You cannot do anything here. Even if you try here maybe to play rook to g8, it doesn't matter. Then again, knight to e6 is going to happen. You have to now maybe again play with the bishop. Now we take, and now rook to h7 is going to happen. Knight to c5, rook takes b7 is an option. So the knight is again much more powerful against this bishop in this particular position. So after knight to d6, what you could do is maybe to play bishop to e4, but then knight to e6 is a beautiful tactic, because you can even go for this line, and after a couple more moves, believe it or not, you get even checkmated by both of these knights. There's simply no good defense against knight to c7. So the bishops are so paralyzed by its own pawns here, the pawn on f6 and also by the pawn on d5, which makes, of course, this knight of Magnus Carlsen so powerful in this particular position. So let's go back. After move knight to d6, there's simply no good move that you can take. Even if you try to attack the knight, you can never really take it because of the back rank checkmate problems that we have seen before. Knight to e6 is going to happen, and the knights are dancing in front of the king. Rook will come into the game. Devastating position here for Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Magnus Carlsen won his first game in Chess 960 against Nodirbek with the white pieces. So, great game, I think, but we have seen unnecessary mistake by Nodirbek to not trade off the pawn on a5 here. This made, I think, the life for Magnus Carlsen very easy, but interesting chess we have seen again. This Chess 960 is, I think, getting more and more popular because it's really dynamic. You have to create new opportunities. You have to create your own style, sort of. You have to be really creative in your chances. So really spectacular game, but of course it's not over. Nodirbek has tomorrow new chances also with the white pieces. We'll see what will happen, because Nodirbek was so far the best player in Chess 960 in this beautiful freestyle chess Go challenge in 2024. Okay, if you want to see more beautiful official random chess games, check out our coverage so far. Here are some games that we have analyzed before, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.